My name is Michael Cox. I'm a consultation researcher with the Mi'kmaq Rights Initiative. I'm an Indian Brook band member. As a biologist and as a consultation researcher, I guess my role on a day-to-day basis is to take a look at technical documentation, review the data, identify gaps, advise the chiefs of the concerns, opportunities, and suggest ways forward. And ultimately that goes to the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs for direction and approval. So when I started to dive into the discussion papers, I was a little shocked about the lack of scientific information in them. No, all due respect, I realize a lot of work went into that from yourself and the panel, and I realize you're using existing information. It just shows that there is no existing information. So from there, I realized after I looked at the different discussion papers and the information provided by the Council of the Canadian, I always say it wrong, academies, yours is much more optimistic than what theirs is. So I started to wonder why. And yours quotes theirs, but half quotes strategically placed. It's almost a pro message that comes out to me when I read the panel reports versus the Council of Canadian Academies. So I wonder, even with that lack of data, with that lack of certainty, how can it be so optimistic? And when you just compare those two documents. I'll give you a specific example of one thing that kind of I had some concerns about. And that was in the discussion paper on well integrity, and I think it was well integrity. There was data in there, information in there that says this technology is 60 years old. We've fracked millions of wells around the world. It implies that experience, that knowledge, that data is being absorbed or involved in the hydraulic fracturing. This unconventional oil and gas exploration, I'm going to call it fracking, just because I'm worried about definitions here. Fracking is 10 years old in Canada, 15 years old tops in North America. The difference between conventional oil and gas development and unconventional oil and gas development is the use of directional drilling, which wasn't used in the past. It's using fracking fluids largely to cut the friction so the liquid could be pumped longer and under high pressure. It's involving many wells per well pad, and that is new. There is no data. We don't have any information on how to assess risk of this technology in our territory or how we're going to predict future impacts in our territories. I was looking at a documentary. It wasn't a documentary, it was a lecture. They were talking about the shale in the U.S. They are talking about one well pad per 1 kilometer squared. So that's 10 wells per 1 kilometer squared. There is not one piece of Pennsylvania that will not be touched by these wells. And with very little information about knowing what the long-term impacts will be. Now the difference there is they need to lease from landowners. So they're talking to landowners and selling this and saying, here's a business opportunity for you. That's not the same here. We're not going to be leasing our land. We're not going to have a say in that. So we have to think about that. And maybe those impacts, the valuation of risk needs to be more evaluated. So I would suggest that, in that particular report, the conventional and unconventional talk about oil and gas is misleading. I mean, we need to represent the facts correctly, and I think that needs to be appropriately changed. We need to make investment into the research and monitoring of environmental impacts. That has not been done to any substantial level to date that I've been able to find. And when I look at Marcellus Shale and I look at Pennsylvania and I look at what they're talking about doing, this is going to be a permanent ecological conversion. This is not going to ever be the same again. These pads are huge. They are grubbed. It looks like pockmarks on the ground. If this was to happen in our territories, goodbye to the traditional lifestyle. So that is something that's huge, very important. I always thought that clear-cut forestry was our main. This is going to be worse. So that's another aspect that I think that needs to be put on the table when we have our discussions in the future. So I don't want to reiterate what you've already heard from the other presenters. I just wanted to close by saying I live in Rexton. I live about 1 kilometer down from the protest site. That fire has been going for a year through a bitterly cold winter. One of the reasons why people are there, that I understand, is the lack of information and the lack of communication. That's what we need to do first. Thank you.